What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be showcasing a bunch of different automations to help you reduce the bounce rates on your campaigns. And each of these different automations are going to have varying levels of difficulty. And so, regardless of whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, there's going to be an automation for you. And so, one quick heads up is that there's going to be timestamps down below. And so, if you would like to skip right ahead to the automations, feel free to do so. But to get started, I'm going to be explaining what is email bouncing. A bounce is a response from a mail server or a mailbox provider telling you that an email wasn't delivered. And inside Smartlead, there's two places that you can find these bounces. The first place being the global analytics section, which we are able to filter out by our clients or our campaigns, after which we're able to see the bounce counts and the bounce rates. Alternatively, you can check on an individual campaign basis where how each of the sequences in your campaign are performing from a bounce rates perspective. And so from here, we're able to see that this sequence right here got 52 bounces at a 2.14 percentage rate, and we're able to see how the other sequences performed. We're also able to see this on an email accounts basis. And so those are the two main areas to check within Smartlead. And this is a super important metric because too many bounces will lead to bad deliverability. And so it's a very important metric to track. And typically, my agency, we're aiming for 2%. You can maybe squeeze 3%, but you don't really want to go much further than that. And one of the reasons why emails are going to be bouncing, by the way, is because you're sending to perhaps non-existent email addresses or emails that may be blocked, things like that. And so whenever you receive a message that looks something like this, address not found, then you know your emails have bounced. And one of the ways to reduce how many bounces we're getting is using an email verification tool. So this right here is a quick screenshot of one of the email validation tools that I use. And as you can see, they mentioned that they've removed 9,271 invalid contacts from the people that I had planned to reach out to. They've also removed spam traps and abusers and fixed a whole bunch of different things such as typos, etc. These are some of the reasons why you're going to be bouncing, and using an email verification tool is one of the ways that you're going to prevent bounces. And so the first way that you should consider reducing bounce rates on your campaigns is by creating an automation that looks something like this. The main purpose of this automation is to keep us informed with how each of our campaigns are performing from a bounce rates perspective. And what I mean is that we're focusing a lot of our efforts on notifications for these campaigns. And so if we look at this, what it's doing is it's using this URL endpoint right here, which is going to list all of the campaigns that we have. From there, we're going to iterate through each of those campaigns and then grabbing the campaign analytics for all of those campaigns using this URL endpoint. And we have a filter right here that only checks for the active campaigns. And so bounces, by the way, these are things that are happening as you're sending emails. And so when you send an email, you're going to get a bounce. And so typically this bounce percentage that you're seeing right here, this is only going to go up and down as you're sending emails. And so that is why we have that filter right here. And so the next thing I'm doing is I'm excluding subtasks because I don't think that really matters subsequences because I don't think that matters too much. And we're doing other things on top of this, right? One of the things that we can do is that we can pause all of the campaigns that have a bounce rate above whatever criteria that we want. In this case, we've chosen the criteria to be 3%. And so I just changed that to 3%. And how we get the bounce percentage is by using this analytics section right here, we're able to get the bounce counts, divide that by the send count, and then we have the bounce percentage. We also have this filter right here, which is checking for campaigns that have at least 300 prospects contacted. Why that is relevant is because let's say you were to send 100 emails and you get 5 bounces from those 100 emails. That is going to be a 5% bounce rate, and it would normally trigger a pause. However, 100 leads is probably too low for a sample size, and so I like to shoot for at least 300. You can go 500, you can go lower, it's really up to you, but that is how I ensure that we're only checking this bounce percentage after a certain point. And then finally, we're going to be summarizing all of that information and then notifying ourselves inside Slack. And there's two ways we can do this. The first way is by notifying ourselves on a campaign by campaign basis. And then the second way is notifying ourselves on a client by client basis. And as I mentioned, we can pause the campaign. We cannot pause the campaign. That is up to us. Let me do a quick demo to show you how this automation would work in action. And so the first thing that you're going to want to do is, first of all, add all of these HTTP modules with all of your URLs. So all of these URLs that I've got here. And then you want to go to your profile in the Smartlead account and grab your API key. From there, you're going to paste your API key in all of those different sections, and then we're going to do a quick test. I will remove this module as I don't actually want to pause any of my campaigns. But you can imagine that we can simply add it. We actually have one right here so that we can simply use. And so that is going to work perfectly fine. One other quick heads up, I've added the client ID section here. So what this is going to do is exclude any of my client campaigns, and we're only going to include my agency campaigns, which are these 3 right here. Maybe this 4th one as well. I'm not sure. And so last thing, I'm going to enable these routes and then disable this route. And what this is going to do is it's going to prevent the campaigns from being paused. And then we're going to run it, and it's going to be sending a message in this channel. And so as you can see, this is notifying us on a campaigns by campaigns basis. And so it's telling me that this campaign, when we click on it, it's hyperlinked to tell us that this campaign has a bounce rate over 1%. So that is what I've got here. I've got 1%. In fact, let me make this 0% to see if it has anything else. And this right here did not go through. And the reason it didn't go through is because the bounce rate is not over 4. And so let's do that to be 0.1. And now when we run this again, we're going to be getting different data. So imagine this being a different day. And so it looks like we've got the same data. Oh, it's because we're filtering for only active accounts. And so right here, I'm going to make sure that we're checking every single account. You don't want to do that. You only want to check for the active campaigns. In my case, I've only got one active campaign, and that's why we're only seeing one campaign. But when we run this again, now we're going to get all of our different campaigns, and we're going to be able to see all of the different bounce rates. And by the way, we're going to be filtering for any campaign with bounce rates over 0%. So every single campaign is going to show up. You don't want to do that, but that's just an example. And finally, did we get notification by the client? Yeah, it says that we did. Bounce rates too high. Bounce rates too high for client. It says that we got it, but I'm not seeing it. 1 second. All right, I got it. So it's because the channels are different. So I put the channel here. I put the channel. I got the wrong channel. And so now this is going to work. So I will just disable this so that we don't get the same notification over and over. But now this is going to work. And so, by the way, what that is called, that's called JSON format. And so if you're going to use a Slack webhook like this, you can use the text to look something like this. This is a hyperlink. And so if you wanted to create a hyperlink, that is what it would look like. If you don't want to use this Slack module that I've used using the HTTP module, you can also use the built-in Slack module. And so if you were to create a message, you would choose a channel similar to how we did there and simply add your text here. Both of those are going to work. And what you want to do, you want to change the connection type to a bot. Both of them are going to work. And actually, I just found this out. And so I'm not going to use any more of these anymore. I'm just going to use this moving forward. Okay, awesome. And so now when we check the channel, we're able to see the bounce rate is too high for a client. And so that is the two types of automations and notifications you can get for your bounce rates. One on a campaign by campaign basis, the other one on a client by client basis. And by the way, I have the ideal setup here. So this is the ideal automation that I would recommend people to build. It is something like this, which does everything that we just did previously, right? It's pausing the campaign, summarizing it, notifying us that the bounce rates are too high and that they've been paused. But considering the fact that we already have all of the campaign analytics. So if you check back here, we don't just have bounce rates. We have the analytics for everything else. We have the sent count, we have the total sent count, we have the open count, we have the pause count, we have all of this other analytics. And so the way that I like to build this, like personally, is something like this, which is grouping the analytics by the clients, or if you don't have any clients, you can skip this part. And we're simply searching for the leads not started. And so this get some right here is getting the leads not started. And so when we go back here, it would be in this section right here. So not started. We're grabbing that number and then we are summarizing it similar to how we did the bounce rates, after which we post it inside Slack to let us know that we should add the leads to the campaigns. And so that is the way that I like to build it, because you can build this bounce rate campaign and you can pair it with a leads not started campaign and just do way more with one automation. However, if you wanted to get even more complex than this, we can start using an automation that looks something like this, which is not only going to do everything that we just did. So everything that we previously did was get notifications and stay on top of these campaigns while also pausing them whenever they have bounce rates. What this is going to do is a little bit more complex, and I'm going to explain that right here. And so what this automation does is it helps us re-verify leads using a different provider perhaps. And so, for example, if you are beginning your campaigns with a very, very cheap email validation tool, that may not check for all of the different things that a more expensive email validator might be doing. For example, spam traps, finding known abusers, and other things like that. And so a cheaper validation tool might not be able to do that. But it is obviously cheaper, so there's some benefits to that. The problem is going to arise when you use a cheap validation tool like that, and then all of a sudden your campaigns start getting really, really high bounce rates. And so previously, what I've shown you is that you can pause all of those campaigns. But what do you do after the campaigns are paused? Are you just pausing the campaigns and leaving them paused forever? Well, not really. You're going to be validating all of those leads again and only continuing the campaign with leads that have been properly validated. And one of the tools that you can consider using or not, it doesn't really matter. There's many, many competitors in this space. But one of them is Zero Bounce. It's one of the more expensive ones. And so, for example, hypothetically, we verified our email list prior to sending the emails, but it didn't seem to work as well as we had intended, and our bounce rates are too high. And this automation is going to allow us to re-verify the leads that have yet to bounce or have yet to be sent an email. And from there, we're going to re-verify them and then delete any leads that don't fit that criteria. So any leads that have bounced or have already started a campaign, any of those things, right? But it's really up to you. Like, this is super flexible, but the idea is to get a double verification going for a campaign that is getting too many bounces. And so to show you how everything works, the first two modules are exactly the same as the ones that we had previously created. We're getting all of the analytics, we're getting all of that information. From there, we're going to be using this really cool module, which is actually one of my new favorite modules. Because it allows you to get every single lead in a campaign, and that's just insane. And so as you can see, we've got all of these leads, but they're in a weird format, and it's really not usable at this point. And so I'm going to disable these routes, and I'm going to show you what it looks like and why we are using this parse all leads section, the CSV format. And so when I go ahead and run this, I'm going to need to get my API key from here. And then I'm going to need to run these modules again. You're going to notice that we're going to have every single lead from our specific campaign. And so I'm going to run it. I've got all the information. And when we run it now, it's going to go through the first module, second module, and then on the get all leads module, we're going to have all of those campaign analytics in this format right here, which we then parse out using the CSV module. And this is going to look something like this, which is parsing all of that and organizing it for us one by one. And from here, we're able to get a lot of key information. So one, we have their email address, which we're going to be using to validate them on the next step. Secondarily, we have their status, which is this column 3 right here. And so we can see that this person is completed. Let's see if we can find someone that is not completed. And by the way, this is why I love this module. Like, you get like all of the leads. Normally there's like 100 lead limit, but this one you get everything. Oh, you know what? This campaign is very mature. Like, this campaign, I have very few leads. And so we're actually not going to find many people that are not. But you can imagine the campaign just started. A lot of these people are not completed. And so the next thing you want to do is you want to put these people in this validation tool. In my case, I've got 0 bounce. You can use any validation tool. It doesn't matter. And then you put it here, but prior to this, you want to change the filter to match your conditions. And so, for example, if you do not want to make people, you don't want to check validation for people who are already completed or bounced, you would simply change the filter like that. And then if the lead validates and perhaps the lead is bad, is the lead is bad, you can unsubscribe it using this module right here. And so we would just paste the lead ID from here, which would be found here, I believe, and paste the campaign ID, all of that information, right? And we can pause or unsubscribe the lead, but I do not like deleting the leads. That is a personal preference as well, but I prefer using this module to unsubscribe or pause the lead, but you can delete them if you wanted to. And then the last thing we're going to be getting here is the number of verified leads. And so we've verified them once, I assume, like when you were doing it before, and then this right here re-verified them. And so what we're able to do from here is use another component of this analytics, which is a campaign monitoring database, which looks something like this. And we're able to add a custom field right here. So insert one column to the right. This one could be like re-verified bounces. And this allows us to see like how many what is our bounce rate. We can see the bounce rate, and then we can see like how many re-verified bounces did we get. Are we re-verifying the bounces when they're too high? That information. Alongside that, we're able to just add the data, right? So we've already got the data, as I mentioned, the campaign analytics for every single campaign. That's already here. And so if you don't have a campaign analytics dashboard, you don't even need to do anything else. This automation right here would help you set that up. And by the way, what this is doing, we're searching for the rows. We've got the campaign analytics. We're filtering it by the campaign ID. And then if it does exist or it doesn't exist, we're going to be adding the rows in a Google Sheet with the headers matching all of the campaign analytics. And so those are the main ways that you can reduce your bounces using automations. If you guys have any other ideas, any other things that you would like to figure out, please leave a comment down below. If this was helpful, leave a like and we'll be happy to make follow-ups to this. Cheers.